Okay, Roger Adderton posted a fascinating video, or his channel has a bunch of videos on critiquing Einstein's relativity, and his point is that the Lorentz transformations existed before Einstein's relativity, and they were used by Henry Poincaré as space-time transformations, um, just assuming that there's an ether. And so his point is that um, the Einstein's relativity is just using the same mathematics but has different principles. Assuming simultaneity is relative and um, that you are required to have clocks in order to synchronize the speed of light. So you have to have synchronized clocks to measure the speed of light because you can't measure it in one direction. You have to measure it in two directions, and so you're assuming a symmetric space-time to do that. Let me look up his YouTube channel real quick. See, um, I have it in because I watched it, so it's in my history. But let me see if I can find it. Roger Edgerton. Andert Anderton? Einstein relativity. Yeah, here we go. I found it. So, yeah, what is omitted in the bad teaching of Einstein relativity? He's been posting a ton of. He's been working on this for decades. I don't know, you know. He posts in philosophy channels. Greetings. Okay, so somebody writes length contraction is not real apart from charged fields, magnetic fields, and gravitational fields, but matter itself does not contract. Okay, um so then somebody posted whether it was just my algorithm or whatever, but there was an AI Kip Thorne talk, and there's all these AI science talks now where they use the voice of prominent scientists and they don't give any reference for the talk, and I tried to find a source for the talk. So I actually emailed Kip Thorne, and then another one came up from Leonard Susskind, and I emailed Leonard Susskind. I'm like, look, this talk is on multiple YouTube channels claiming it's you, but it's your AI voice, and there's no reference for the source of the talk. But basically, the Kip Thorne talk is saying that the Hubble telescope or the James Webb telescope has proven that relativity is wrong, that Einstein's relativity is wrong, and then the talk is considering the alternatives to relativity. One of the alternatives is that space-time emerges from quantum entanglement, but what my claim is that space-time emerges from quantum non-locality that's non-commutative. So the entanglement is actually inherently existing as non-locality that's non-commutative, and by non-commutative I mean asymmetric. And one of the fascinating things about Lorentz transforms that existed before Einstein's relativity is that they are asymmetric mathematics. So then I just searched into AI that Lorentz transforms are asymmetric, and the response I got from AI was pretty interesting. So I'm just going to go over that. What did it? Let's see, what did I okay. Um Lorentz transformations are not inherently asymmetric in the sense of physics. They appear mathematically asymmetric depending on how you represent them as matrices or coordinates transformations. And so then the Lorentz transformation includes both boosts and which I would assume is like moving in a straight line without rotation, and spatial rotations because rotations are represented by non-symmetric matrices. The product of a boost and a rotation results in an asymmetric matrix. Whether a matrix is symmetric is a property of the coordinate basis and not the underlying physical transformation. If you change your basis, um, a transformation that looked symmetric might suddenly look asymmetric. Sometimes when people describe Lorentz transformations as asymmetric, they're referring to the effects and not the mathematics itself. Like in time dilation and length contraction, it is common to focus on one frame doing the measurement of the other. While both frames agree the other clock is running slow, an individual observer sees a specific one-way result. This isn't an asymmetric in the laws of physics, but a consequence of the relative perspective. Um, if you mean the matrices used to perform the calculations are not always symmetric matrices, that is true, but it's a feature of linear algebra and coordinate choice, not a breakdown of the symmetry of spacetime. So, um, basically, this whole idea of coordinate choice or a preferred rest frame has to do with what is being observed. And I had this like debate with Victor Toth, who is sort of like the main physics guy on the Quora forum. And he's not actually a physicist, but neither am I. But he just toes the line of the standard relativity science. And so the debate was about whether virtual photons actually exist or not. And he says, well, they do exist if you have a preferred reference frame. And based on the a grading measurement so that the photon has to interact with matter with mass somehow for there to be virtual photons. In other words, the experimental measuring device is changes the reference frame, and therefore it's not pure mathematics. And then in the pure like mathematics of physics, it's symmetric, and the virtual photons don't actually exist. They're a byproduct of the renormalization of space-time. And what the problem with Victor Toth's claim is that Basil J. Haley disproved it. Basil J. Haley disproved Richard Feynman's renormalization and Dirac's similar claim of renormalization. And so essentially the space-time is inherently curved. And this is what Leonard Susskind is saying is that as soon as you have curvature of space-time, it changes the speed of light. That the speed of light is no longer a symmetric space-time calibration. And so the paradox that Victor Toth points out is um, that speed of light, that light itself experiences no time, and and so since it has no rest frame, and therefore there cannot be a a violation of the speed of light in the vacuum. And um But this all depends on what is an observer of the speed of light, because you're assuming you have to have a clock that observes the speed of light. But in meditation, when you're doing quantum biology, you're assuming that you are light, and so you when you turn the light around, then you're able to listen to the source of light that is at a superluminal negative frequency and time reversed um, active information from the future. And this is what's being demonstrated in the weak measurement experiments using entangled photons, where you have the future actually changing the past due to this non-locality that's non-commutative. So what that would mean is that there is no rest frame, and this is what Basil J. Haley told me. He said he doesn't believe in a symmetric rest frame, and so instead of saying that the speed of light is always invariant, you just have to say that there is no um, object at rest in with mass, um, because all matter is actually made of light inherently, and so you're constantly not only constantly at the speed of light in terms of a true observation being at the speed of light, but you can listen to a superluminal active information from the future, and that's the secret of the non-commutative phase in quantum biology meditation. And so this sounds like some like esoteric thing, but if you have the wrong foundation of reality and you build science upon that, then the instruments you're using to measure the speed of light increasingly um, are increasing entropy on Earth, because the negative entropy is actually the truth of this non-local non-commutativity in biology. And so this is something that Roger Penrose gets into because he studies quantum biology as well as cosmology. And so the ecological crisis on Earth is actually just a byproduct of this assumption of symmetric spacetime that the speed of light then reveals with paradoxes. So, for example, Louis de Broglie's law of phase harmony was a critique of relativity, assuming both the speed of light and the frequency source of the photon. And so, if the photon energy is defined by the frequency, you have this inherent non commutativity because there's no center of mass for the time and frequency. Um, the the article light is heavy goes into this. If you try to trap light in a box, you inherently cannot have a center of mass for a symmetric space-time reference. And so not only does it prove that light is all matter is made of light, but that there's an inherent asymmetry to space-time where it's inherently curved from the future that's non-local, and that reality is actually a fifth dimensional black hole. Both that has no sense of space, it's just pure time and frequency. And so this explains why Western science is increasingly destroying life on Earth, because it goes against that inherent negative entropy that arises from the non-local non-commutativity. And a good example of this is with photosynthesis, found especially in algae, being the oldest life on Earth, using blue-green light that relies on virtual photons. So you have this constant virtual photon trapping of light that's converted into matter for algae, that then the foundation of creating oxygen for complex life forms, and mitochondria to power complex life on and chloroplasts for plants. And so anyway, we're doing the exact opposite. So we're increasing like radiation on Earth through nuclear weapons and depleted uranium and nuclear power, and um, all the other pollution from using oil and herbicides and pesticides and all that, for synthetic fertilizer, and destroying the ecology of the soil, and the abrupt global warming then destroying the life in the oceans from increasing the acidity, the inability for the oceans to store carbon. And so this rate of destruction is then accelerating as biological annihilation of life on Earth, because of this wrong definition of space time. Thanks.